Hi, everyone. For our Dysgraphia discussion, we're going to complete a case study. So, following your review of the literature and some of the PowerPoints, as well as the recording of a training, we will complete this case study and hopefully apply what you've learned throughout that process. So, what we're going to look at is a student first. We're going to take a glimpse into how they were performing at age 6, and then fast forward to see how these indicators transferred as a 10-year-old. So, first, starting with when the student was 6 years old, the student performance overall was age appropriate to advance on tasks requiring his ability to convey ideas in writing. So, we weren't seeing a great deficit at this point because, at 6 years old, the expectations aren't that significant. But there were some concerns going on with this student. His performance was moderately delayed on tasks requiring pre-writing skills and his ability to write orally presented letters and correctly. So anything that revolved around drawing or shape formation, letter formation was really challenging for the student as far as fine motor planning and integration. So assessments were completed by the child study team, and one test that we administer is through the Woodcock-Johnson, and it's called writing samples. And this is for this age child. He's really required to sort of fill in the blanks with his writing. So sentence completion. He wrote his name, wrote some letters, wrote words, and wrote one sentence with a picture prompt. But there were some observations. So these are the important things we see with dysgraphia. Sometimes they're not going to perform low on testing per se, but we may see some observations or behaviors that could trigger some red flags. So the student held the pencil, the writing implement, with a fisted grasp, real tight, close to the tip of the writing implement. So he wasn't spacing his hand from the bottom of the writing implement. And he always wrote in all capital letters, so no lowercase letters. Sometimes you see this with dyslexic learners as well, because the BD type reversals, it's easier to form those capital letters. But with him, we saw that in his writing. His letter formation, we saw a lot of size variation, spacing and alignment issues. And then when he went to write, often he would just write the initial sounds of some words and not finish the word in its entirety. So writing overall was very laborious for the student. Looking at spelling, graphomotor skills, also on the Woodcock-Johnson. For this assessment and this age, it is a lot of this pre-writing skills. So tracing, connecting dots, forming letters, forming some words. And the student received a score in the 8th percentile. So he's performing below about 92% of his age peers. So pretty significant delay here. He was able to imitate vertical lines and scribbles, connect dots with a straight line, a curved line, but that wasn't proficient. So there were some issues there. He recalled some letter formations from dictation. So if the examiner gave him, say, write a letter A, he was able to do that, but not consistently with all the letters presented. While forming letters, he used a lot of verbal rehearsal about how to form the letters as a reminder for himself. So that motor memory wasn't quite there with letter formation and recall, and could not draw a person. He drew a face, but only included eyes and a mouth, and overall does not like to draw. So that's something we stayed away from for the student. Fast forward, age 10, grade 4, spelling now, where we're looking at how he's able to spell certain words from dictation, was within normal limits. So within the 50th percentile, 25 to 50th percentile. His written expression now is low average. So he's has a standard score of 80 and 10th percentile. So 90% of his age peers are performing at or better than him. So to get more information and see where this is really breaking down for the student, because we had two different scores, I administered some curriculum-based assessments. And I've started from the easiest to more challenging, just to get an overview of what was going on with the student. So the first one that I administered was sentence copying. So this is, I give him a sentence and say, okay, here's your sentence, right below it, copy the sentence. So he has the visual, he has the model. This was within age and grade expectations, and it was legible. Sentence dictation. So this I did not administer because it really was for younger students. So I jumped over to paragraph dictation. So this is really for grades 3 and up. If it was a younger student or his skills were much lower, I would have done the sentence dictation. So paragraph dictation, I'm reading the paragraph to the student and they're generating it. They do not have a visual, there's no model for them, just the auditory piece of it. And this was well below expectations. Then I also administered a written expression. So this is a curriculum-based measurement that I give the student a writing prompt. And then there's some time that he's given to brainstorm and then given time to write. And for this, he was given about 4 minutes to write and could not come up with an idea. So he was hesitant to start. The expectation is that he would have written 30 to 52 words in the 4 minutes that he was allotted. He wrote 10 words, so well below what he was required to write. He was hesitant to start, had a hard time processing the information, required a lot of prompting. He was re-administered this as a functional assessment to give him some prompts and cues so it can help guide our instructional practices. So I re-administered it with a word bank. So I changed the variable in this because I wanted to see if with that word bank that could really give him sort of a leg up on where to start, get him going in the process, because he had a lot of great ideas, a lot to verbally share, but just couldn't generate that on the paper. Still hesitant to start, required prompting. So I re-administered again with a sentence starter and a word bank. So this is where I actually started the first sentence for the student and gave him the word bank. Noticeable improvement. So with the functional assessment and some of the curriculum-based measurement, that gave me a starting point for his instruction. So now I know that I can write skill acquisition programs to get the student started on responding to writing prompts. So the first short-term objective was to increase his response to writing, so how many words he writes, using a word bank and a sentence starter. And I wanted to start this at a sentence level. So not even giving him a prompt for a paragraph, but a prompt for a sentence with a sentence starter and a word bank. I started with high motivators, so topics that the student really enjoyed. So he would have a lot of resources, a lot of knowledge about it, and be really motivated. Once we hit our proficiency level, and I saw this over consistently over 3 days that he would hit the target I was looking for, we went to short-term objective to increase the student's written output. That the student now was going to develop his word bank list and provide a sentence, and I provided the sentence starter. So staying with the high motivating topics, but I wanted the student to start to develop their own strategies by fading out the word bank and requiring the student to do that with some support. And then the final step was student developed a word bank and no sentence starter. So continued with the high motivating topics, students' interest levels, and went there. Now, as we transitioned out of this, we went to paragraphs and obviously expanded his written expression. But this was the process that we utilized for this student. So I'll post the case study question for you guys, and hopefully you can think through this process to help guide your response. Thank you, everyone.